its bare truth and its real reality, the crucifixion is not child's play. It's really not the sort of thing that can be accurately represented by moving vegetables on a screen for children, or that can ever be colored in accurately by a little plush, velvet colorings that we'll have among children. Crucifixion was in fact an art form. We're somewhat familiar with it. We're going to remind ourselves of what exactly it was that was suffered by the Lord Jesus Christ on that day in Jerusalem, carried then out to the mountain of Golgotha to die. The crucifixion was a Roman art form. They had basically perfected the ability to kill somebody with the extreme increase of pain and the extreme extension of time, so that somebody was held on what they call excruciating. Do you know that word is actually invented because they needed a name for something that was as painful as the cross? The word excruciation means out from the cross. We only have a word for this extreme maximal pain a human being can experience because of the art form of the Romans. They were able to hold somebody on the verge of death in extreme pain, the kind of pain that would normally kill someone. They were able to hold them there for days at a time through this art form, crucifixion. Jesus' suffering, in fact, started on the Thursday night. It would have been equivalent for us last night, 2,000 and something years ago. He had his meal with his friends, and the suffering started there. His heart was overcome with grief as his friend, his disciple, Judas, betrayed him, sat at the seat of honor in his table that Jesus hosted, and then left so as to go and purchase a betrayal price of 30 pieces of silver. And then as Jesus left the dinner room, the Last Supper room where they had Passover, and went across the valley and into a garden, a secret garden where they gathered to pray, as he prayed, the weight of the burden of what was about to happen, knowing full well what he was about to receive. John's gospel tells us that he knew all things that were to be done to him. It was with that full knowledge that he was suffering in prayer, that he was alone in the garden, and that he was sweating great drops of blood, a medical condition we now understand as somebody at the extent, the fullest degree of anxiety and stress is overcome, and their capillaries and their sweat glands are so opened up in distress that they are so dilated that they mix together, and blood comes out of the sweat glands. And here's Jesus, his robes now covered in his own blood as he sweats in this garden, simply because he's thinking about what is going to happen. It hasn't even started yet. And then from there he was betrayed. We read in John's gospel that Judas leads in the army that they didn't need. He was going to be going willingly, but they brought an army, and simply with the profession of his name, he borrows from the Old Testament, uses the Greek phrase, and uses God's own name, Yahweh, for himself. They say, "We're here for Jesus of Nazareth," and he says, "I am." And what is this crowd of 600-something men with clubs and swords and shields? What do? They all fall back at the simple mention of his own divine name. Just as a clue, from the very beginning of this account, no one is forcing Jesus to do anything. Absolutely nobody is killing Jesus in the true sense of the word. What we need to realize is that Jesus himself here is not merely a political victim. He's not merely a man being taken. He is the God-man submitting and yielding to a voluntary crucifixion for the sake of others. Philippians 2 reads like this. It tells us that Jesus did not count equality with God something to be grasped, something to be held on to. He did not remain in heaven or even in his humanity grasping onto all the privileges that he deserved. Rather, it says that but made himself nothing, taking on the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. This man that is being arrested, this man that has been betrayed, this man that will be crucified is unlike any other man that has ever been crucified, because he is in fact the eternal God in human flesh, in the fullness of human nature. He has a human mind and soul and spirit and body and emotions and sensory feelings. He is a true man. This is not that he's become this third category. That God is in heaven, mankind is down on earth, and Jesus has become this cordial mix of both water and cordial, right? This is not how we picture the human divine nature of Jesus. They are joined in the one person, two natures joined in one person, but never mixed. It's not as if he was human but superhuman. It's not as if he was merely a demigod. It is that he is true God, somehow inhabiting the true experience and reality of a human body, mind, and soul. This is the God-Man. The only way that we can say it is just throw the words together, because there's no real English way or human way of explaining what he was. He was the God-Man, Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the anointed one, sent from heaven for our salvation. So that every beating, every bit of suffering that Jesus undertakes this day is, as Philippians has said, the voluntary yielding of himself to the will of the Father. Here's what Philippians 2 goes on to say. And being found in human form, he humbled himself. As if God down to human was not enough, he humbled himself even further. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death. It would have been an amazing condescension of God if he became a human and simply sat on the throne above every throne and received worship forever and ever by sinful humans. Do you know that would be an infinite condescension of the Lord Jesus Christ? He deserves far greater than that. And yet that would have been a condescension. But he didn't come to do that. He came, and being found in his human form, he was not worshipped. There was that inkling at the beginning of his life as he was born that the shepherds came and worshipped him. Some Eastern magicians came and followed a star and gave him gifts. There was a snippet of worship, and then he was chased, and then he was hated, and then he was maligned and considered as just another person, and a fool at that. Jesus came down and was humbled, obedient to the will of God, even to the point of dying a human death. And not only that, but dying the death on the cross, Philippians says. He humbled himself to the point of death, even death on a cross.